Hello, today we are working on measurement again. We are now going to move on to the area of a circle. So please set up your book ready for this lesson. Fold it in half and use a red pen and a ruler to draw a line down the centre and put these titles in and underline them using today's date. Walt. This is our Walt. It is to use the correct formulas. So please write the Walt in to your book. And the tib. Measurement is used in everyday life. This is why we study measurement. Please pause whenever you need to finish these. We're going to use some examples as well. Okay, first of all, let's have a look at some information. So the area of a circle is found by the formula pi r squared. R, as we know already, is that radius from the centre out to the edge or circumference of the circle. And the radius is equal to half the diameter. So if you're given the diameter in any of your sums, you will need to halve it. Remember, the diameter goes from edge to edge and it goes through the centre. So copy down some work there to remind you. Now for some examples for you to copy down so that you can do the practice sessions. We're going to find the area to 2 decimal places. So we're going to look at an example with a radius and an example using a diameter. Always write down your formula first. Then substitute. We're doing it to 2 decimal places, so you need to use the 3.14, the 3 dots telling you this goes on and for infinitesimally. Okay, and it's r squared, so I've got a radius. We're going to square that. Remember when you multiply this out to go to 3 decimal places so that you know how to round. This is 5 or more, so the 3 becomes a 4. Always include your units. Remember we're doing area. You're multiplying 2 radiuses, so 2 lots of centimetres together to make a square centimetre as your area. So copy down that example. And an example now where we're using the diameter. So the formula remains the same. However, we've been given the diameter, not the radius. So we have to calculate that radius first. So that is the formula. Radius is a half of the diameter. Therefore, we have substituted in that the diameter is 18 and we have to halve it to find 9. You must show working for every number that you use in your work. I must be able to see how you have calculated every single number. I know you can do that in your head, but you must use the formula. You must substitute and calculate to show me that you understand where you get that 9 from. I know it's easy now, but it won't be forever. Now we go back to the 3.14. We're squaring the 9 because that's now our radius. And we're going to 3 decimal places. The 9 there is 5 or more. We have to round that up to 7. Remember that it is now square centimetres. They forgot to superscript this one. Remember that the little 2 sits up there. So sometimes you'll find they forgot to superscript and put it up higher. Okay, you've got all your examples now. And so you'll be asked to do some with a radius and some with diameters. Sometimes they show you the radius differently or the diameter. So you just need to know, is it going from edge to edge or is it going from the edge to the centre? Let's do that first one together where the radius is 12. So you must write down the formula. Always write the formula first. Now we substitute 3.14 and we're going to square the 12 because it was 12 was the radius. And of course that's 144. We'll just wait for that to come back into focus. It doesn't want to focus. There it comes. Okay, and then you multiply it out and round it to 2 decimal places. Always square centimetres, because we've multiplied 12 centimetres by 12 centimetres. Centimetres times centimetres is squared centimetres, and that will be your answer. Good. Now I've also done B for you, because B, if you remember, shows the diameter. So you have to go through all the steps that were in the second example. Formula first, but we don't have the radius. We were told what the diameter was. We need to write down the formula. We know that the radius is half of the diameter, and then we substitute the diameter into this formula and we calculate what the radius is. We can now go back to our formula that we wrote up here and include this radius that we have just calculated. And then we use our calculator to square this number. Remember, squaring means that you multiply this number by itself 2 times. So it would be 1.25 times 1.25. And the area in 2 decimal places with square kilometres as your answer. So pause and work on these other examples. Question 2 is exactly the same thing, just in words. They have not drawn the diagrams for you, so just be aware of when you're using the radius or when you have the diameter and you need to calculate that radius. Annulus. That's a Latin word for ring, and a lot of questions in maths like to use this one to give you a more difficult question. But they're not more difficult, it's just 2 questions in one, where you have to find the circumference or area of one part, both parts, and add or subtract them and things like that. So an annulus is the shaded area between them. So you'd need to find the area of the big one and the area of the little one and take the small one away from the big one, so you're left with what's on the outside. 2 different radiuses. Okay, so you've got the radius of the big one minus the area of the big one minus the area of the small one. So that's all these ones are doing, is using this formula here to calculate these 2. Okay, these are just fractions of circles, so half circles, quarter. Now this one's a bit more difficult because you have bits and pieces where you have to calculate. So you've got a half circle here, and then you've got this part here to work with as well. Another one here, we've got the half circle, and these ones are 2 circles that are half the size of the original. All different shapes and sizes where you have to break it up. They're compound shapes. Break it up into the different circles and parts of circles to calculate it. It's just lots of steps, not more difficult. Now some harder questions here on reasoning. You have to investigate these couple here, so you just have to do a whole lot of sums and then work out the correct answer. And some problems down the bottom. These are the types of A-type questions you might be getting in an exam. Now you have to think of ways to remember the formula for circumference and for area. How are you going to tell them apart? Maybe it'll be something to do with squaring. So if r squared would be an area, and if it's just r, it would be a circumference, wouldn't it? Okay, the answers for you. And we have, of course, 12 down the bottom. Good luck.